Welcome to DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next. The inspiring podcast of DVC alum and students here at Dial of Allen College. And now, on with the show.
You were a cancer.
Well, it's us chit chatting.
Oh.
So yeah, it's just us. We're just chilling.
So my name.
Yeah,
It's like an office breakout.
yeah. Well, once in a while I do break the fourth wall. So, all right, and we are live here at DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next. And I'm very excited to have our returning champion debate team coaches, we'll call it. So let's start with, why don't you start and go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Paul Villa. I am the co-director of the speech and debate team, and I direct debate specifically. I'm a professor in the communication studies department.
Cool.
Yeah, and I'm Rob Hawkins. I'm the other co-director of speech and debate, and I run the speech side of the speech and debate team. And I'm also a professor in the communication studies department.
So you guys are like tag teaming on that.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Dynamic duo.
Yes. So let's talk first. Let's talk about how you ended up here at DVC.
So
Where'd you come from?
that's a great question. I came from across the street. I went to the middle school across the street, and then I went to the high school across the street, and then I went to DVC as a student for 2 years, and then ultimately transferred, got my bachelor's and masters at the University of the Pacific. And the whole time I just wanted to come back here and do the exact job I'm doing now.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I'm from the area. My mom went to the middle school and high school across the street.
Oh, wow.
This is a generational street for us. We've been on biking for a long time.
Yeah, my all three of my kids went to College Park.
Okay.
Two of them went to Valley View, and one of them went to Pleasant Hill Middle just because it had just opened. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just it, and I think that's one of the draws when you're at CP, College Park, is that I don't know what I'm going to do. We're here.
Yep.
So, what about you, Mr.
I'm
Hawkins?
from the Bay Area. I'm from the East Bay, Union City specifically. I went to high school at James Logan High School. Shout out to the Colts. And I went to San Francisco State for college, CSU East Bay, and then back to San Francisco State. And then taught high school for a bit, taught college for a bit, liked college way better, got hired here 10 years ago, and so far so good.
Wow. Okay.
Pretty simple. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, and I happen to like being here, but my oldest daughter teaches middle school PE.
Yeah.
And I got to give it to her because she's been doing that for 10 years, and I don't know where she gets the bandwidth. Because
So I did a good 10 years. I taught high school for 10 years.
Okay.
English. And I like the students a lot, actually. But everything else I did not like.
Yeah.
I just needed more flexibility. But, my wife's a high school teacher, so I have a lot of respect for all high school teachers and middle school. Middle school's really hard.
Yes, because they come with middle schoolers.
Yeah.
Which are a special breed.
So to get or I don't know if they changed it, but to get a high school credential, you had to teach middle school for 6 weeks. That made you do that.
Really? Okay.
And I was like, I can't do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was with my old middle school teacher, and I was like, I don't know how to talk to these children.
Yeah.
And they're not listening. But I realized that wasn't for me. It takes a special person.
Yeah.
High school, for some reason, I think our humor is at the same level in high school.
Yeah. So, okay. So you guys are here. You've been doing this for about 10 years. Hang on 1 second. You got something blinking there. I don't know why it's.
No worries.
I don't know. All right. We'll go with that. All right. So, and yes, that stays in because it's all part of the thing.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's organic. So, how long have you two been coexisting as the speech and debate folks?
So
3 years, maybe? 4?
no, man.
No.
So I
sound like I'm interviewing a married couple.
Yes. My first semester teaching at DVC, so I wasn't quite helping run the team yet, but I was teaching here, was the pandemic semester. So it was spring of 2020.
Wow.
And I was still in grad school at Pacific, but I had finished all my coursework. I just had to finish my thesis. And a professor at DVC had given up their class to go do something else. I think they stopped being a professor. And he had contacted me because he had known that I wanted to be at DVC eventually. And he was like, hey, next week
tomorrow.
be interviewed for this job.
And take this class over. So during the pandemic, I took over as chair of the department, and the pandemic happened. So and we had a professor who left, and Paul had mentioned he was interested. I was like, would you like to be here? He's like, yes.
Yeah, and it was crazy because like,
a week later he's teaching. Yeah,
I'd never taught, basically in general, I did a lot of coaching. And so I had like a co-teacher of record, John Hanakak, but I was teaching. I was like really teaching the classroom and doing all this stuff. And it's like 6 weeks and I'm like, wow, I'm finally figuring it out. I get how to use this whiteboard. I know how to, regulate the classroom management. And then I went away to go to the national championship of debate with Pacific. So I was still a graduate assistant there. And it was a Thursday. And I'll never forget, on this Thursday, I got an email that said, hey, on Tuesday, all of your classes have to be online.
Ugh.
And I'm like, I barely know how to teach in person, right?
Jeez.
And so we've been together for about 5 years, 6 years coming up now on the team.
So the COVID year, I was kind of coaching, but I was chairing of the department. So then after the COVID years were over, then we really got rolling for a full solid 3 years. So we're on 3 official years. So.
Yeah, and I've been I became a full-time for 3 years.
Job.
Well, and I think the COVID, everything is BC and AC. In other words, before COVID and after COVID.
That's true.
Because I remember I was commuting down to Newark from here. Yeah. And man, that was brutal. And but we were sent home for 2 weeks in March.
Yeah.
And we never saw the office again.
Yeah. But, it was like we had an amazing team that year.
Yeah.
And it was just ended just like that. So the state got canceled. Nationals season was over. So
and it was crazy the next year or two, because obviously nothing was open on campus, but we were basically the first group of people who were allowed back on campus, because the state championship was that next March. And the deal we struck with the school was we will put every single student in a different room. And so we were just at this building right.
They were available.
The LA building. And no one so just all of us are in our different, and we had all these kids who knew each other from online and from Zoom and from Discord, and had been teammates for an entire year and had never met in person until that state championship, where they had to stay 6 feet away from each other and never be inside together and whatnot. And so it was a weird time to become a teacher.
And the end of that story is that ended up being our first state championship.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
we were the best COVID team ever. We won.
They won 2 years in a row.
Okay. So you guys went into, I was going to say the whole thing about Zoom. So I had a bunch of colleagues that during that time period, it's I hadn't seen them. I only saw them from here up.
Yeah.
And, because I was at a company that's international. And so it's then we got together finally, I think it was at 22. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, man, you're way taller than I thought you were.
I had the exact opposite experience with this girl named Tristan Keene, who ended up winning a bunch of national championships at Berkeley. But the first day I met her, I had to go give her a microphone. And so we just met in a parking lot here at DVC. And she was in some bigger car, and I was in a low car to the ground. And she gets out of her car, and I'm like, oh, she must be really tall. And she hops down and disappears. And then she walks around the corner, and she's literally 5'1". And I was just like, man, Zoom makes you got tall energy on Zoom. It's a vibe.
Sure. Yeah. So talk a little bit about it. So you're coaching speech and debate on Zoom.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Please enlighten me as to what that was like, because that had to have been a challenge.
It was simultaneously incredibly challenging, because little things you take for granted, volume in a room, or do you have good internet? Can the judge even hear you? All of that stuff is a challenge. But then conversely, in some respects, it was one of the best seasons that we've had, because our biggest barrier in a lot of years is going to be budgetary stuff, right? We have to make decisions between, are we going to this local community college? Or are we going to maybe once a year go out to Illinois or something? But during the pandemic, everything was online. So on every weekend, we're let's find the best competition in the country. Let's go debate Berkeley. Let's go debate against UCLA. Let's go debate against Bradley, Western Kentucky, whoever. And let's go to speech against them too. And so these kids got this almost year-long boot camp of hey, normally you would only see our local regional people, and then maybe once a year you'd go out and see the big dogs. But every single weekend, we were just at whatever the hardest tournament was. And so the kids got, really, really good and then really fast. But another challenge was, a lot of it is what I call van culture. We drive vans, right? That's what you do when you're a sports team.
Yeah.
You're in a van, you're in a bus, you drive down to Southern California, you all drive back, you're really tired, you sing songs, you play games, whatever. How do you do that during the pandemic, and we used, Discord, which is like a voice program, whatever, just chat rooms and all this stuff. But we would literally do like virtual van rides because we were trying to make sure that for the students, they got as close to the experience they would have had in person. And so like after we competed, we would all designate like, we're going to spend 30 minutes just in a voice call together, like, talking trash or celebrating each other's wins or playing Among Us or whatever the kids kind of wanted to do. And so by the next year, when all of these kids got to be in person, it was like they were best friends, right? Because they just like, they literally saw no one in the real world for a year, and they all bonded doing this really hard thing for a year online. And then when they got to come back in person, they were just like, oh my gosh, what a privilege to like get to spend this time. And so the logistics were simultaneously impossible and also the easiest money time we've ever had because nothing cost like any money. We weren't paying for hotels and stuff.
Were you able to carry that budget over?
A little bit. I mean,
I'm sorry.
we definitely had to
say that.
No, we did. We actually did carry. It wasn't a ton, though. We did save. But like Paul was saying, like the students during that time were thriving for emotional connection and social connection. So the coaching that I did, I found was good. It was meaningful. They wanted to do it. They wanted to work on things. I think everyone was feeling isolated. And I think this was just a natural fit for people to come together around something and to learn and to have fun. So it wasn't as hard as you would think. Motivation wise, because I think they just wanted to do something,
Well, and I know like my wife was upset because she couldn't go to work, and her work is very much in person. So it's like,
like what do you
My wife is a kindergarten teacher during the pandemic. That was a crazy thing to see.
That must have
someone trying to teach 35-year-olds online.
Yeah. Yeah, my oldest daughter is a PE teacher, and she was doing PE online, which I don't know how that works. But my wife is a lifeguard over in Rossmore, and so it was like she just couldn't go, and she was and I'm at home working, and she's like, "Man, what are we doing?"
Right.
But I could see where I love the idea of continuing to build the culture of the team and build that tribe by having that, 30 minutes we're going to be on just giving each other a bad time. Because now, think about it. I mean, that's half of what being on a team is about.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
It's like you got to make fun of so shoes. You got to, it's like,
And what was very strange was actually the transition out of it because, during the pandemic, we had strangely like one of the bigger teams probably like just in the country for community colleges because we were doing such a good job of like keeping it engaged, making it feel real and whatnot. And then all of those kids transferred after 2 years. Most of them to Berkeley. Is one of our most successful like transfer years. And the next year we had 0 returners.
Brand new program.
And obviously normally we would be recruiting during like all college days and different things over the summer. And there was like basically none of that we could do besides just tabling in the quad, and we had no returners to like word of mouth with their friends.
It was just like,
so we
were worried about the numbers in the class, so we just let everyone on. Not to say that we like select, we really don't, but we really were like, anyone can join.
We're begging, please.
And the numbers ended up working out. But that was a weird year. That year back was definitely like an adjustment year. And we did all right as a team, but I think the students were trying to figure out life again, And so competitively, it was not our strongest season, but we kind of recognized that early on and instead focused on like developmental goals instead of trying to win it all, which ended up being the right decision.
Yeah, we had a 1 year, so it was like 2021 state champions, 2022 state champions, 2023. It happened. That was a year. And then for 2024, those kids won the state championship too.
Back.
And so, it just took some time to like rebuild.
To get the rhythm going again. Yeah.
Well, I think the COVID years, and it was more than 1 year, but it's like the COVID time was really, we all became kind of feral.
Yeah.
We lost a lot of our ability to kind of interact with other humans other than through a screen, which is still really weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a lot of doctor's appointments on a screen. And so it's just.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, it's like BC, AC or whatever.
Yeah.
Ironically, a lot of the online infrastructure has stayed. So there's still a lot of online tournaments now.
Yeah.
We don't go to them as much, but they're there. So for some people, they still work and all that, but we're mostly in person now.
Yeah. So you got the chance to kind of fill that gap where everybody left, and then you were able to kind of like build a team.
Yeah.
Understand. Well, and it sounds like you guys knew what you had when you got a hold of them. You go, okay, well, let's set some realistic goals and stuff.
Yeah.
Do the students embrace that?
Yeah, I mean, like, so the question is about goals and what.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's you went from 2 state championships back to back, and then it's like, okay, well, this is not the,
on some level, like every year the students set the tone for what they want to achieve. Like as coaches, we are obviously like championship coaches. We only know how to do high level speech and debate, but we're not in the rounds. We're not doing the work, and the teams have to decide what kind of goals they have. And for some teams, it's really obvious. They want to go all the way. Like this team we had this season, like there was no question about how, I mean, the challenge was there were so many great students. How do we manage? Talent management was the biggest challenge this year. But, you know, other years, it's up to them to make the choice because, you know, we're not doing the work you guys are. We're going to get you there. We're going to meet you guys halfway. But at the tournaments, it's about you, not me. So, you know, and they, for whatever reason, they just rise to the occasion. And so I sort of assume they will, and they always do. So
I think there was kind of like a chip on the shoulder thing too, because, you know, like I said, during COVID, we just crushed for community college level, like at an exceptional pace. And then we came back and we had our smallest team in the entire time I've been here. And we didn't find a bunch of competitive success. And it kind of felt like to those kids, and maybe like a little to me, like, man, did we only win because it was COVID and because other people didn't have like, you know, their full strength or they weren't as in it? So then that next year when we came back with those same kids who had, you know, just been around, and then they won state, and it was like, oh no, okay. Like it's just,
it wasn't just because it was online.
It's like, it's like, you know, and that's, and I think that was a big thing for both those kids and for the program. But it's very, like, me and Rob always try and set a standard, but we really try and stress to students that if the only time you work is when you're in a room with me, we're not going to accomplish the things you want to accomplish.
That's my number one thing. Yeah. If you only practice with me, you will never be great at this. You might be good, but you're never going to be great. And that conversation mid-season is a big wake-up call for a lot of people. And it separates the folks who are going to go for the big stuff and the students who are just kind of maybe experiencing it. And here's the deal. Like, it's okay if they're like just kind of enjoying the experience. We're not like, you know, pushing kids past their, we're not like, you know what I mean? But, you know, we know how to do that type of high level speech and debate. So ultimately, like when a student makes those choices, we're going to get them to where they want to go. Yeah. It's as much as we possibly can.
A kind of unique thing about speech and debate too, at least at the college level, is we don't just compete against community colleges. Like the state championship and the national championship are CC only, but every other event that we go to is, you know, Berkeley's there, UOP is there, you know, University of Nevada, Reno's there and stuff. And so they get exposed to those people who've potentially been doing speech and debate since they were like 12 years old, even if they are just finding it from a public speaking class that semester. And so it's just awesome that aside from us, they have this reference point of like, here's these other people doing these incredible, you know, pieces or making these incredible arguments. And if they can do it, why can't I? Like, I'm in the room with them. I belong in the room with them, and, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I love the fact that they're getting exposed to that very high level experience, because the thing is, and that you guys are taking them along going, no, you belong here.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm sure they get a little, you know, oh my gosh, we're going up against Cal, because for some reason we're all terrified of Cal.
Yeah.
No, they're so good at debate, by the way.
Well, apparently they have a great theater program.
So, they got a lot.
Yeah. But again, it's like, it's that myth of that, well, they're a 4-year school and we're 100%. Only, and yet the fact that our speech and debate can compete at that level really says a lot, I think.
Yeah.
So the last couple years, so what you did, 2 years state champion, 1 year was a kind of a rebuilding year. That's what they keep telling me about the Giants the last few years.
Oh my gosh.
The whole rebuilding thing. What is that?
And then apparently you guys did it, and then you went and got championship again.
Yeah, we had a good one this year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we had a really great season. So after 2024, which was a great season, we had another big reset year with enrollment, but we just got an incredible group of new folks. And we said, since they were new, we were just like having fun, exploring speech, taking them to big tournaments. But they got rolling real fast. And then we were like, okay. So then we started throwing more stuff at them. And we didn't go to state in 2025 because we couldn't afford it. So we chose to not go and spend the money towards nationals. But then we went to nationals and had one of the best first year, like with brand new students, the best like possible national tournament we could have had with people who have never been there. Wow. Yeah, we had a group win the Readers Theater Championship. We had all this amazing debate success. It was super fun and very pure because they had never experienced it, and like that's always the part that I like the most is that like seeing people just who've never seen, they're not jaded, they're excited for everything. It was such it was just nothing but fun. It's actually one of the most fun nationals I've ever been to. And then that team was back this year, and then it was all just like man, just they're all out for blood, and we were just like just the whole season we're like just trying to manage it, and like we had like 10 or 11 returning students, and it was just like we have this a good type of problem to have, but still a problem.
We have this bizarre problem every year where me and Rob at the end of every year go like, okay, next year's got to be the year where we just take it down a notch. We do like a fun year, because like we grind, we go to all these days and whatnot, and then the kids show up, and like if they're enthusiastic, we're not going to be like, sorry kids, there's a limit.
We're just having fun today. It's like an incredible group.
It was supposed to be like our down year or whatever, and like, okay guys, well we have 50 kids and we're gonna just go to all of these tournaments. And
I also want to say that it was part of what made it challenging in a good way is they're not just trying to like win for the sake of winning. They do want to do well, but some of them had important political messages. Mm-hmm. I have an Iranian student who's obviously like experiencing a lot of complexity right now. I have a Palestinian student who for the last few years has been really trying to explore the emotional space around what she's experiencing. And so many students of color and students who are neurodivergent who just have all these like important things to say. So as a coach, I feel a great deal of weight in having to help them craft a message that can really get at the thing they care about. And I want to say that because it's not just about the winning. They have important things to say. And as a coach, I feel a lot of weight because I want to explore whatever they're exploring. And it requires me to learn more, like to dig into the history, to educate myself, because I don't know everything there is to know about the Palestinian experience. So I lean on them a lot. So it's the more you know them, the deeper you get, the more powerful the presentations, the more weight it takes, the more challenging it is, but the more beautiful the product is. Like the presentations were just so meaningful this season, and yes, they did really well at the end of the season, but more importantly, like what they created was just like very profound. Yeah.
I love when they start racing against themselves, if that makes any sense, because they know the legacy of the program. They know some of our most successful people. Professor Nicole Sims used to be on the team, and she was the #1 community college competitor in the nation. We had Brenna Syerson win that same award in 2022. Yeah. And so we've had these really incredible students. And so sometimes I see the kids be like, oh, but I'm not that person, or they did this and I haven't done this. And they tend to eventually get to a place where they're like, I am that, and now the only person I'm trying to like improve upon and is me. And it's especially great because there's a lot of teams where you can tell they're competing against each other in a somewhat like toxic way, like they're
students, it's not for
right?
like the right.
Like they're like, I want to be the best person, or I
just want to be just on my resume or something.
Yeah, and we're pretty fortunate that some of our top speech competitors, there's these 3 girls who are just like the best of friends.
Yeah,
and, they're just always together.
Cool.
And
so, the challenge with them was they won the Readers Theater national title their first year, which is like a 3-person performance event. It's like 25 minutes. It was just an incredible experience. And then they're back this year. And the question is, well, what do we do? What do we talk about? And we spend a lot of time just exploring it and thinking and researching and then getting it together. And I can say with them, in more so than any event, it was just me trying to keep up with them, man. They were just on a tear. And at nationals, it was just very obvious. I had one of their judges come up to me and say, like, I just think they're having the most fun. Those 3 are like just having a good time. And I'm like, yeah, they're really good friends. And it just carried the whole event tournament. So again, like the season is good, was really great, but I'm happy it's over.
It sounds like
it's a good problem, but like I always say we're kind of like in terms of coaching, like maybe medium sized, but we have a large school. So Paul and I are always doing, and then I also want to say we have 2 amazing assistant coaches, Andrew Morgan and Sydney Alexander, who do an incredible amount of work for us too. So we're just happily overloaded, but happy the season is over as well. Yeah.
So do you think, because I think the whole thing about the culture that you guys have set up, because I do say that that's one of the biggest things that coaches do is they set the tone. Is like, this is the culture we're going to have for this team, you know? And one of the things, like you made the point, and I was going to get around to it, but you guys made it for me, which is you get some teams that are basically either competing against each other, and for whatever reason, somebody thinks that that's a good way to win because that seems to be the most important thing to them, or it seems like you guys have set up a culture which I think creates both more short-term success and especially long-term success for the students, you know, of that culture of, you know, we're here to enjoy and explore. Do you think that you guys have had something to do with that, or talk about what you've done to kind of set that tone?
You know, what I did was I was never the best person on my team. You know what I mean? When I was at the University of the Pacific, I remember transferring in, and I'd been a pretty successful community college competitor. And I went to my first practice over winter break, and it was immediately clear to me I was at best the 7th best person in that room. I did this practice round, and I got crushed, and I literally like almost called my dad to be like, this was a mistake. Like, I don't know if I can handle this. Like, they are so unbelievably good. And I just was never that person, you know, and eventually I was in the top partnership of my school. And at one point, me and my partner were the #1 ranked team in the nation. We were 2-time national semifinalists, but I had no delusion at any point that I was better than Dallas Phillips, my debate partner. And I appreciated so much that I just got to work with this person, and that, like, when she was kicking my butt in practices, it was making me better. And you know, my coach back then, Steve Farias, who's still a good friend of mine and still directs the program at Pacific, he's always so big on like, look, we are going to win as a team, we are going to lose as a team. There's these people who get in their mind like, oh, in practice, I need to go in and crush my teammates or whatever. And it's like, no, you want your teammates to get better so that they give you harder reps so that you get better. And it's all this cycle. And it's like, no one can do what we do on their own. You need that feedback. You need that response and pressure from those around you. And it's so much more fun to do it when you're all understanding there's a common goal. Like this year, the kids, you know, that we lost the Northern California Championship last year, and the kids were kind of feeling some sort of way about that because we had won it the last several years, and there was this great team from Butte who beat us. And at the start of this year, we came in and they beat us the first couple tournaments, right? But I could tell just amongst the kids, like, no, we're just like, this isn't our final form. Like, we're going to work towards it. And by the time we got to the Northern California Championship this year, the kids had worked so hard together and like really, you know, the rising tide had raised the level of all ships. We scored the most points ever. Like if the debate did really good, we had one of our best debate years ever. If debate didn't show up to this tournament, we still won. Wow. Because the speech side literally scored the most points of all time. And that only, like, you can't do that. Even if you have the best kid in the country, the most events they can win is 4, because that's basically all they're allowed to be entered in. And there's 12 events. And there's up to, 6 people in each of those events. And so the only way it works is if all of the students recognize, like, this is a collaborative exercise. Right. And that's why, in debate, there's 1-on-1 debate and there's 2-on-2 debate. And I've always loved 2-on-2 because it just teaches kids how to work with someone, even if you disagree, even if they're not the ideal partner, especially like if they are your friend. How do you manage a professional or competitive relationship with someone and not just, always be friends or whatever? How do you do this when you're going to spend 20 days on the road with each other, going to tournaments or whatever? And so I just think the collaboration, both with your teammates, with the people you're competing against, the just meeting all these professors from different schools who judge you, goes so far into the culture of speech and debate. And that our entire activity, the premise of it is you say some stuff for a certain amount of time in a room, and then someone tells you exactly what they thought was good and bad about it. And then the question is, will you as an individual be upset and be dismissive and be like, well, no, they just don't know what they're talking about? Or will you say, I can learn from anyone and I can improve, whether that's your teammate, the coach, professor, whatever?
That's a very that's a very mature lesson to learn.
Yeah.
And I know people.
And some people never learn it, by the way.
I was going to get there.
It's like, but yeah, it's great. It's a great thing to learn when you're a young person.
Yeah.
It'll stay with you the rest of your life. Yeah.
Yeah. And, but it's, I think what we're talking about here is something that seems to be generally the culture for DVC is just that kind of that, we're all here for the students.
Yeah.
I'd love to see some of the competition between different groups, like athletics against English or something like that. Relay and never mind. So
that'd be fun.
That would be fun to watch, and or do some sort of office chair.
Yeah.
But so when you get a group of students in, you probably work to like set expectations of some sort. And what does that look like? Like what do you tell the students when they first kind of come in for the competition?
That's a good question. We talk about the basics of the course first. Like, how do you actually pass the class? Yeah. Because a lot of you have to do certain things to actually pass. So that's always our baseline, because we want everyone to get an A, and 99% of the students get an A. Maybe one student might disappear, but in general, they all do. And then competitive goals sort of get set as the season goes on. If you have a team that's returning, we already know what the goal is. Our goal is to win the overall national title, or the Bavaro table, or the individual national title, or something like that. And there are some students who have very clear artistic goals, and those are students that I really love. I had a student this season. His name's Aslan Brown, and he's a theater guy through and through, and he had a lot of really important collaborative goals that he wanted to do that weren't just about winning, but about I want to work in a group. I want to try Readers Theater. I want to try these events that I saw last year and I thought were amazing. I want to actually test my how funny am I, right? Because there's an event called ADS where it's basically 10 minutes of humor. It's really hard, and our region's really great, and the country's really great, and not everybody's funny. No matter how well we coach you, it's and so some students want to test that. They kind of self-decide what they want to do, and then the competitive nature of the activity then just kind of, it's I don't say an arms race, but it just gets more and more intense as the season goes. And our region is incredibly competitive, so it just became about wanting to keep pace with all these amazing people in our region, and then in our state, and then in the country, and they just want to go to big tournaments and be those people they saw last year. So it kind of sets the tone. Yeah. As the season goes on. On some level, we have to kind of control what sometimes get them back to the goal of we had one student, great guy, Danny Mendelson, who broke both of his arms in the beginning of the season. So after that happened, we were kind of okay, what are the goals? And so we were just we just want you to be able to actually hold the binder and do normal things. And he had an amazing recovery. And then from January to April 15th, when the season was over, had an incredible semester. So his goals were kind of shifting. On one level, it was just let's just get you back to normal. And then he just got better and better and better, and did really well at nationals and stuff. So it kind of all depends from student to student.
It's very much just who I'm talking to. This year, we had a pretty great opportunity where there were some students from St. Mary's who they lost their coach, and so they asked if we could help them out. And so I was like, yeah, as long as you're willing to come hang out with our students and do some rounds with them and stuff. And those kids ended up winning the national championship this year. And these are the people who were just hanging out with our students and giving them rounds and practicing with them and stuff. And to be able to talk to someone like that is so valuable for them. But more importantly, to know that it's hey, look, those people they're working with the same person you're working with, and they just believed in themselves and they managed to pull this off. And why not you? Why can't you be the next person to succeed? But we had some returners this year in debate and nationals last year. One of them, they didn't think they're going to do good, and they ended up winning a gold medal in this format of one-on-one debate. And we had this conversation at the end of the year where their partner was one of our other best debaters on the team. And I was like, hey, it feels like this whole year you've kind of been telling yourself that you're not good at this. Mm-hmm. And now you're good at this, and they're really good at this. So at a certain point, you have to make a decision are you gonna be as good as you can at this so that together you can succeed, right? And like, if not, that's fine because we have one-on-one events and stuff. But if you want to be a partner with someone who's going to be, trying to be the very best, what does that require of you? And then this year at the Community College National Championship, they were the only team that went undefeated. They went undefeated the entire tournament and they won it. And, now it's just like, looking back on it, last year you did this as an individual. This year you really challenged yourself to work with this person again for the second year and to like rise to the occasion. And you had literally as much success as you possibly could. And so it's very much
individualized.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it becomes about the team as the season goes on. So like Danny with his two arms, like his two broken arms. I keep going back to Danny because he had a pretty amazing season.
It was crazy.
For him, like I guess because he was like in the middle of the season and middle of the semester and he's in 2cast or whatever. And I'm like your goal is to make the national team because we only have 14 spots. And I had a conversation with them in December. I was like, it's not guaranteed. There's 16 or 17 people that we could all take right now. And he just took that and went, okay. And then did everything he needed to do to get to the national tournament. And then he exceeded expectations. I had another student who is from West Africa, who's from the Ivory Coast. And I feel like in our activity, we like to say we're inclusive, but I think she faces a lot of accent bias. Yeah. It's a sort of beautiful West African accent. And I find that a lot of people see it as like a deficit when they're judging her. And it's not clarity. She's very clear. It's just the fact that she has an accent. So with her, I knew the whole season was an uphill battle because she's an incredible performer, incredibly hardworking student, one of the most enjoyable students I've worked with at this school. And I knew she was going to face this big bias thing all season. So we just figured out things that would help like focus on her talents and get around some of these things. And she had just the most incredible season and like went to nationals and just completely dominated and got 3 goals.
I've never
and it was it was incredible. And like for her, we knew what the goal was, which was to just fight the bias of like, just because I have an accent does not mean I'm not good at this. And our community isn't like this super intolerant community. They're not. But sometimes they just need a reminder of and so this season, I think she really, really showed, but I think the state and the country that she has what it takes. And just because you have an accent doesn't mean anything, and had an incredible tournament. So like with certain students like that, the goals are very clear. And she and I just knew that was the goal the whole year, was to have high level success. And she did. So anyway, so it's really special. It depends on the student.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the accent thing, I've had sat down here with some folks that had accents. Yeah. They were very embarrassed about it. I says, no, don't. Only accent. Because then once they're done with speech and debate, and as long as they're not in politics or something like that, it's like, people think accents are kind of cool.
Yeah.
And we need to break down from somebody else. You're from someplace else that is not.
Yeah, I know Sayara. I saw her on the thing, and she and I. She just joined. She was sort of very new, so we just worked on some stuff. But we talked about it all season, and we did some speeches that helped her work through like, your accent is not a deficit; it's a part of who you are. And there's a difference between like being clear and then just having an accent. And I don't know. I think society needs to catch up with the rest of the world.
There's. I had one. I did this a while ago now, and her name escapes me, but she is now, she does executive coaching.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And she's originally from south of the border, and I can't remember where.
Yeah.
But so she's got a little bit of an accent. Yeah. And you could hardly tell. And then you get like Anahita, who she's been here for 3 years from I should know this, from Israel or Palestine. I cannot remember which. And so she learned English starting 3 years ago by watching TV.
Yeah.
You would not know to speak to her that she has any kind of a,
It's actually 3 years into language development.
Yeah. But so somebody comes in new. What's the sit down you have with them?
Well, so like you said, day one is like, it's a class. The number one thing, like it's a team, but it's a class. Yeah, you get a grade.
Like, you have to show
professors. Yeah.
Like this isn't like a club where you get to option out, like you're enrolled.
Yeah. The first couple meetings, meeting one is like, here, it's a class. Here's what that means. And then meeting two is, here's what we do here. Here's all the events we have. We have these 12 categories of competition you can do. There's the speech side, there's the debate side. And at the end of that second meeting, we're basically like, hey, if you're leaning towards doing performance, go see Coach Rob. If you're leaning towards doing these other speeches, go see Coach Andrew. And if you want to do debate, come see Coach Paul, et cetera, et cetera. And then we just go in a room and we just
kind of let them decide where they want to go. And then we usually get a decent balance of students. And then we just work with them on what they want to do. And sometimes the students will go to debate, go to one practice and be like, I don't want to do it. I'm not saying it's because of Paul.
Well, I find out
I'm saying it's because debate attracts sometimes a certain type of thing. And they're like, I kind of want to.
You never believe it. They're pretty argumentative.
You would have,
Really?
and some people are like, nah, I don't know if this is for me. And then they'll, and then other students will be like, oh, the writing events, I don't know if I want to write. Can I try something more off the top of my head? And it's like, yeah. So they kind of have to make decisions.
We had a student this year who had done debate last year, had one tournament, had some sort of like anxiety or like panic attack situation, didn't do it again. And then this year they came back, did speech, had a great year, won medals, just won.
Just
tournament. It's just not.
Debate's not,
that's what's great about speech and debate though, is it's like, there's these 3 debates that we do. There's these 11 or 12 speeches that we do. And like, there's something for everyone. Some of them are closer to acting. Some of them are poetry. Some of them are what you're doing in your public speaking class. Some forms of debates are more like being a lawyer. Others are more technical. Others are very like persuasion oriented. And so whatever your skill set is and whatever you're bringing into the room with you, there is a category in an event that you'll probably excel at or have fun at, or at a minimum, learn some important skills from.
By the time it's over, people can understand that it's all just different sides of the same thing. It's all sort of persuasion and emotion in various forms. So some students are like, I have to know exactly what I'm going to say. I can't not know. But like eventually you're going to have to do that anyway. So we do try to push students out of their comfort zones eventually, but we do let them decide first. And then by the end of the season, they see that you can pretty much do everything. There is big differences between speech and debate, though, I will say that. But at the same time, like it's all part of the same circle of persuasion and speaking. Yeah.
So we'll wrap it up with what do you think next year looks like? Or you no idea?
We had an incredible season. This season is the most successful season as far as I could tell, going all the way back to when they started records to, I know like in the 70s, there's some archive stuff going on. So I don't want to say, I don't know for sure, but I know that like we had one of the best seasons that we ever had. So I know Paul and I are definitely looking at the bigger pictures of what does longevity look like for us and how do we manage, the team keeps growing every year. One good thing is that all the national tournaments are in California this year. Ooh. Next year, sorry. So it won't cost us a ton of money. So we'll, just like we do every year, we'll let the students set the tone. But we are excited. We had something good and bad happen this year, but Drew is one of our part-timers for like 3 or 4 years. And he just got hired at Delta as a full-time. And we're really, really going to miss him. And he took up a huge, like an incredible amount of what we do. So we're trying to restructure with a new coach next year. And so there is, I don't like the rhetoric of it's a rebuilding year. I would say it's a restructuring year. But we let the students kind of decide like, what is the goals? And we'll and then we have to, decide how much money do we have to go? Like on some level,
I wasn't going to bring that up, but
on some level, like those are real things. And those are like the hard decisions that coaches have to make. Like you can't do everything. So what do you do? What does that look like with their personal lives and all that? I don't know if you add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's always so interesting because obviously, we find out at some point, like early in the summer, like, hey, is our department getting another hire or what's going on with that?
Right.
And how does that, if there's a hiring cycle, how does that change things and so on and so forth? But I think Rob just nailed it that like I said, we come in every year and we're like, okay, maybe we'll tone it down, or no, this will be a big year. And it always just comes down to who's in the room with us, who are the 30 to 50 to sometimes crazy 60 kids that we have, and what is it they're trying to achieve, or what is their level of commitment or interest, and how can we sort of serve those students? Because ultimately, that's just what we do, right? Like we're community college professors. We're both parts of this community. Like I said, I grew up on this street, and this team did phenomenal things for me. That's how I got my scholarship and paid for my education, both my bachelor's and my master's degree. And so there are some kids who are on that track where it's like, how do I get this kid in their foot in the door at some school to get a scholarship? And there are other kids where it's like, they want to be a lawyer. What lawyers do I know who did debate, and how can I connect them with them, and so on and so forth. And so I try not to plan too much until I have the kids in the room with me, until I've seen kind of the vibe and where people are going. But I think every year we're going to try and accomplish accomplish something, and it just depends on what that means for that specific population of students.
Oh yeah.
So if anybody wants to find out more about the program, where do they go?
DVCforensics.org. That's our website. You can also just Google DVC speech and debate and you'll find the website there that has a link tree with all of our information. There's like a video of me explaining the program. There's also like our Instagram page. Our emails are hawkins@dvc.edu, pvia@dvc.edu. If I'm missing anything.
No, that's right.
Humanities 109 is our current location, 2:30 Tuesday, Wednesday. So you can come by. We have like this open door policy where people can just stop in. We have people randomly come in and sit in on stuff. We're like, that's cool. That's part of like what college is about.
And the class itself, for anyone looking at it, is just COM 163 forensic speech.
No requirements. If you've never done speech and debate, that can actually be a really good thing because you come in with a fresh mind. So all you students, there's no requirement and it's a lot of fun. I think. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen.
You. Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
And by the way, I'm going to put a link. We'll get a link to all your stuff in the show notes.
Dope. All right.
Cool.
Go Vikings. All right.
Thank you again to DVC Alumni, where every story inspires the next. The podcast for the DVC Alumni Association. You can contact us at alumni@dvc.edu with any comments, and be sure to leave a like and